Make a delicious beef soup with me. So I'm getting my pot. I'm cutting up some carrots and potatoes. I use 3 carrots, and the first thing I'm doing is shredding up my carrots, and I use half a bag of baby potatoes. So I'm chopping up my carrots like so and putting it into a bowl. Then I chopped up my potatoes long ways. And once I was done with that, I put the veggies to the side for later. So I cut up like some old onions I already had in the fridge, and I used about a whole onion. I put it into my Ninja, then I put some butter in my pan, and I put the onions into the pot. Then I give it a nice stir, and now it's time to season. So I'm adding some seasoning salt in there, some basil, minced onion, parsley, paprika, garlic herb seasoning, some original seasoning, Goya, onion powder, cumin, lemon pepper, and then I'm giving that a good mix. Then I'm adding some beef broth. I used about a little bit more than half the container. I mixed it again, and I let that come to a boil. So I'm preparing my pan for the beef, so I'm adding some oil, butter, and a little bit of minced garlic. So once the pan was on high, I put my beef in there. I had it on 6. I'm adding some boiling water to my pot. Then I'm flipping over the beef. And once the beef's outside was done searing, I put it into the soup water. So I'm doing my second batch here of beef. And once it looks like this next clip, that's how you know you're supposed to put in the water. And I let that cook for 40 minutes. And once it was done boiling, I put my potatoes and my carrots in there. I gave that a good mix as well. And then I added some spinach in there. And guys, after I added the 2 bags of spinach, I had it on the stove for 20 minutes I had it on the stove for 20 minutes on 4, but it was boiling over a little bit. So I put it on 2 for a little bit. So I'm checking the beef and the potato here. It was good. Then I'm adding my corn, my peas, gave that a good mix, and I let it cook for another 20 minutes. Well, after I add this minced seasoning, I felt like it needed a little bit of that. So now it's done. So now it's time to plate. And that's how I made this delicious beef soup, guys. If you try this, let me know. Thanks for watching, Nuggets. Bye.